Sin Radio.
Apparently, Jamaican government wants to mine bauxite, which is in the area called Country,
Right.
Cockpit Country, and it's considered one of the last wilderness in on the island of Jamaica. Now, Cockpit Country is Maroon territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just for all the people who might not know who the Maroons are, a lot of people say they were escaped slaves and also some of the indigenous people that lived on the island that we call today Jamaica. Obviously, they probably had their own name for it, but today we call it Jamaica. And the Maroons fought the British to the point where the British actually signed like a peace treaty with the Maroons, because the Maroons, the area that they occupy was very, very hard to get to.
Right.
The British military just could not deal with the terrain, and these guys were warriors. They got busy, and just to sum it up, they kicked the British ass. Okay. Yeah. And a lot of people in this country are not even aware of the Maroons. So for all of you who might not know who they are, that's just pretty much a very brief synopsis of who they are.
Yeah.
And so what's going on right now is, in case you didn't know, the Jamaican government just partnered up with a US-based company, and the company and Miranda now wants to mine in Cockpit Country. And obviously, like we said before, this is Maroon territory.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is bauxite? Bauxite is pretty much like a sedimentary rock, which is relatively high in aluminum content.
Yep.
Now, Jamaica used to be the #1 exporter of bauxite.
Right.
Okay. Aluminum products, all types of your aluminum foil, all that stuff comes from mining bauxite. And Jamaica was #1 at one point. But the issue is wherever these companies come in to mine the bauxite, they leave over this almost like red kind of dirt, and it's kind of like a lake of chemicals,
right,
that end up, in the neighboring villages. They end up blowing into these areas, and a lot of these people end up having a lot of health issues. Their water sources get contaminated. It's just an environmental disaster, and the government, obviously partnering up as a 51% majority owner with Miranda, is now threatening Maroon territory, and the Maroons obviously have an issue with this.
Yes.
So, the chief, one of the young chiefs of the Maroons, his name is Richard Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely opposed to bauxite mining in the Maroon territory. And again, the wildernesses of Jamaica is where Jamaicans get their water source.
Yes. Yeah.
So obviously, if you're going to be mining by a natural water source, you risk potentially contaminating that water source. And that's a big deal. Water is a big deal. We 70-80% water. And I could definitely see why these people have an issue with these companies coming in there.
1000%. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, you have Maroon heritage. Are you still plugged in?
Well, the thing is, it's funny, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I'm still doing my homework and finding out what the Maroons are and things like that. And this, but listening to my grandmother's stories about the Maroons, I know a little bit about that whole thing, about the people. But the thing about it is, it's still a lot of things that I'm, as I said, finding out, and even within doing this particular show, I'm getting more and more information, and I'm about to order 2 books on the Maroons. So, but I just think that those people were the way they lived and the way they it's sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? They lived in it's sort of like an isolated area where they're at. So
Right.
everything that anything and everything that they do there is dependent on the land and the water
Right.
and without any outside sources. So the thing is that when you have a company or companies that go into this place and start destroying their land, where are they going to go from there? So it's like you have to kind of see like what's the next step outside of this? What is the motivation behind this? And how are these people going to find out, and who are going to be these people's voice? Because we've
Right.
seen this time and time again throughout history, where not just in Jamaica, but here in the United States, in Australia,
Right.
in New Zealand, where you have, I would say, certain parties or certain colonizers that go into the land, destroy the land, destroy the people, just for the mighty dollar.
Right.
So I think that this is just a modern day situation of that. So it's like I always say, um, people don't change. I think time and technology changes.
Right.
So
Methods might change.
yeah, methods might change. So the thing about it is, I'm like I said, I'm still doing my homework on the history of the Maroons, because the thing is that before my grandmother passed away, which is over about a year and a couple of months now, you know, my family was kind of gathering information on the Maroon people to find out who they were, and to see like how they played a major part in history and in the Jamaican history. So
Culture.
I'm still following up on that.
Right.
And as I said, I have a list of things that I'm trying to get that information. So I haven't really been on it doing my due diligence, but I'm making it a point to kind of get that information and to continue that legacy and pass that information on to
Definitely.
to my future generations within the
Right.
family.
And you definitely want to get on that, because right now, uh, with this whole situation with the prime minister, his name is Andrew Holness,
Yeah.
and he's actually been Jamaica's prime minister since March 3rd, 2016.
Yeah.
Now, Holness, like many other prime ministers in the Caribbean, are pretty much connected to the crown, the British crown, and unfortunately, these are foreign powers, foreign entities, and politicians obviously don't have a great reputation with the people in this country, and it's no different in Jamaica. For instance, with this whole situation with the bauxite mining company Noranda, this prime minister walked into parliament and said, I think it was 2017, and said that he would protect cockpit country. Okay, he would protect cockpit country, but the area that
Mhm.
he designated to protect is not the entire cockpit country.
Mm.
So he was double talking. He was
Uh,
double talking. And a lot of the people in these areas are complaining, and rightfully so, that they are affected by the dust. They had one brother, they actually ran a story on this on Vice News.
mm.
There's a brother in this village, and there's so much dust coming off the lake from one of these mining companies, because you have two other mining companies. There's actually a Russian company called Windalco, and there's a Chinese company called Jisco. And
Right.
that Chinese-based company, along with Noranda, who is a U.S.-based company that partnered with the Jamaican government. And this poor brother has to keep his clothes in suitcases because there's so much red dust just building up around his house, around the speakers in his home, and he just can't keep it out. And he said this dust is going to kill him. He has high blood pressure, other ailments, and the man just said, plain old, he just said it straight out. This is going to kill me.
Right.
And the company, all they did was give him some drums to collect water in, and that's about it. I mean, they got this lake that contains all these pollutants and stuff like that, and the after product of once the aluminum and that whole process of the bauxite mining is complete, the leftover residue is just very harmful to the environment.
Yeah.
And it's sad because when you think of Jamaica, you think of the beaches.
Yeah.
You think of you think of the tourism. You think of those things, and you think of the cruise ships. You think about, the fresh food, the fish,
Yeah.
the fruits,
vegetables,
the resorts, right?
Yeah.
And those areas are protected because they're on the coast.
Yeah.
But on the interior of the island, where many of these Maroons live, is not looked at as important as the coastal regions that bring in the tourism. Now, once upon a time, bauxite mining in Jamaica was #1 in the world. They were #1.
Yeah.
But it has since decreased. And now Jamaica actually ranks #7 in the entire world. They're behind Australia, Guinea, China, Brazil, India, and Indonesia in bauxite mining. And a lot of the residents have a very valid complaint because Jamaica is the poorest English-speaking country in the Caribbean, followed by my country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we're going to touch on another subject relating to my country as well after this one. But Jamaica hasn't really benefited, or the Jamaicans, as we call them today, have not benefited from bauxite mining. And many of the people are already skeptical about this whole new operation that is moving into their territory.
Yes.
So we got a problem, Houston. We think that we are going through so much with the COVID pandemic, and there's other situations that other people are going through that we do not see because, unfortunately, mainstream media doesn't see it fit to cover these things because the mainstream media has agendas to push.